Welcome back to Epic Geekverse. I'm Lucas. And today we're diving into everything you need to know before the release of Captain America: Brave New World. We're covering it all, full timelines of your favorite characters, the history of the Super Soldier program, and even Hulk's often overlooked role in the MCU. Get ready for a comprehensive breakdown of key storylines spanning 11 movies, 21 Disney Plus episodes, and an inside look at the MCU's political landscape. It's complex, sometimes strange, but undeniably fascinating, and whether you love it or hate it, keeping up with this stuff is basically mandatory for today's Marvel fan. But don't worry, we've got your back here at New Rockstars. Let's kick things off with Captain America: The First Avenger, 2011. This film introduced us to the Super Soldier program during World War II. Starting with a scrawny Steve Rogers who, despite being rejected by the Army, is chosen for a groundbreaking experiment led by Dr. Abraham Erskine. With the backing of inventor Howard Stark and support from the charismatic Peggy Carter, Steve transforms into Captain America, first a propaganda figure, but soon a real force on the battlefield, taking on Nazis and Hydra soldiers. Along the way, he loses his best friend Bucky Barnes and defeats the villainous Red Skull, sacrificing himself to crash a plane into polar ice, where he remains frozen until Nick Fury revives him for the Avengers initiative. However, what might be even more relevant to Brave New World is The Incredible Hulk, 2008. In this film, we see Bruce Banner, then played by Edward Norton, working in a Brazilian bottling plant while being pursued by General Thaddeus Ross, William Hurt, and elite soldier Emil Blonsky. Here's the kicker: the gamma radiation that turned Bruce into the Hulk? It was part of the government's attempt to recreate the super soldier. Blonsky, injected with the super soldier serum, eventually becomes the Abomination, and Bruce's blood also mutates Samuel Stearns, setting him up to return in Brave New World as the villain, the leader. Hulk's epic brawl with Abomination in Harlem and Tony Stark's cameo afterward ties this all together with the Avengers initiative. One overlooked moment is William Hurt's portrayal of General Ross, particularly in the post-credits scene where Tony Stark finds him in a bar. Many fans see this as a subtle nod to the Red Hulk arc from the comics, leading up to the World War Hulk storyline. While it's taken a while to get there, Thaddeus Ross's transformation into Red Hulk has been long awaited by Marvel diehards. And now, with Brave New World on the horizon, it looks like Marvel is finally delivering on that promise. So buckle up, because there's a lot more to come in this breakdown. In The Avengers, 2012, Mark Ruffalo now played Bruce Banner in a groundbreaking CG redesign of the Hulk, the visual assets of which are still incorporated for the designs of every Hulk character, including Red Hulk, to this day. So when you see Red Hulk in this movie, you'll see traces of that 2012 Hulk in there. Hulk and Steve Rogers joined Tony Stark, Iron Man, Thor, Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, and Clint Barton, Hawkeye, to fight Loki and the Chitauri forces in the Battle of New York. This gets Thanos' attention. In the second Captain America movie, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, 2014, Steve Rogers meets Sam Wilson, played by Anthony Mackie. Sam runs group counseling for veterans and was an Air Force pararescue airman who wore an experimental military wingsuit. Call sign: Falcon. Steve Rogers learns that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been corrupted by Hydra, with Zola's disembodied AI Ghost running the show from Camp Lehigh's computer servers because, after World War II, he was recruited into the U.S. military establishment under Operation Paperclip. We learn in this movie that Bucky is actually still alive as Hydra's brainwashed assassin over all these years, the Winter Soldier. Steve, Natasha, and Sam are at odds against the U.S. government, and they have to fight to bring down Hydra's Project Insight helicarriers from assassinating a huge percentage of the population. In Avengers: Age of Ultron, the Avengers have to work together to stop Tony Stark and Bruce Banner's AI creation known as Ultron. Sam Wilson is a part of the new Avengers lineup at the end of that film. Sam Wilson returns briefly in Ant-Man when he's the representative of the Avengers when Scott Lang tries to infiltrate Avengers compound. Sam and Scott fight, but Scott is able to get away. In Captain America: Civil War from 2016, A messy Avengers mission in Lagos prompts the UN to propose the Sokovia Accords to regulate all superheroes. Thus, Ross returns in this movie. He's now the US Secretary of State. And he shrugs off his absence as needing heart surgery, health issues that actually could come back in Captain America: Brave New World. Ross demands that the Avengers sign the Accords. But the team is divided. T'Chaka, King of Wakanda, is assassinated in Vienna, and his son T'Challa, the Black Panther, joins Team Iron Man to hunt down the Winter Soldier, who they think was behind the attack. Tony, during this time, also recruits Peter Parker from Queens. Meanwhile, Steve Rogers recruits Ant-Man and joins up with Wanda and Clint Barton and Sam to protect Bucky. The Avengers clash at an airport in Berlin, and we learn that all this time, the Avengers were being manipulated by Baron Zemo, who got a hold of the Winter Soldier activation words and held a grudge against the Avengers for losing his family during the Battle of Sokovia. But Tony learns that Bucky, under Hydra brainwash, had killed his parents back in 1991, which leads to a brutal fight among Tony, Steve, and Bucky in an old Hydra lab in Siberia. Zemo confesses his involvement to T'Challa, but T'Challa prevents Zemo from ending his own life. Things end up with Rhodey being severely injured, and most of the members of Team Cap end up getting imprisoned on the Raft, which is a floating prison for enhanced individuals. This movie ends with a rogue Steve Rogers breaking Sam Wilson and the others out of the Raft. Technically, directly after this in the MCU timeline are the events of the Black Widow film from 2021. In this movie, we see Secretary Ross in brief appearances chasing down a fugitive Natasha Romanoff after the events of Civil War, as she follows her own side mission with her adopted sister Yelena Belova to free their sisterhood of Black Widow agents from the floating base of the Red Room. Actually, one of the former Black Widow agents will be introduced in Captain America: Brave New World, Ruth Bat Seraph, an Israeli superhero named Sabra in the comics. But in the movie universe, an Israeli Black Widow agent played by Shira Haas. Now, in Avengers: Infinity War, 2018, Sam Wilson joined Steve and Natasha on the run as anti-Sokovia Accords fugitives. Thanos' forces arrive on Earth seeking the Infinity Stones, one of which is the Mind Stone in Vision's head. The fugitive Avengers return to Avengers Compound, where Rhodey ignores a demand during a hallway call with Secretary Ross to arrest Sam and Steve, Natasha, Wanda, and Vision. Sam ends up joining this group to Wakanda, where they try to have Vision's Mind Stone extracted while they end up fighting Thanos' forces. But ultimately, the Avengers failed to stop Thanos from gathering all 6 Infinity Stones, and Thanos snaps. Sam Wilson dusts, and Bucky Barnes dusts. Secretary Ross, we later learn, is also among the dusted. In Avengers: Endgame, 2019, initially, we see the surviving Avengers killing Thanos but leaving Earth still in a state of despair. 5 years later, Earth has gone through a period known as the Blip, and we're now in 2023 in the MCU timeline. Scott Lang ends up getting freed by a rat from the quantum realm, and he ends up talking to Tony Stark, who rethinks his past time travel experiments and basically unlocks the secrets of time travel, which enables the Avengers to carry out a time heist to pull Infinity Stones from different points in the past. And it works. Hulk is able to snap everyone back. But unfortunately, a past version of Thanos follows them to the present, leading to the Battle of Earth. But Sam Wilson is the first returning hero that Steve Rogers hears. And he calls back the first words these two exchanged in Captain America: "The Winter Soldier, on your left." The united Marvel heroes defeat Thanos. But Tony Stark dies, and Secretary Ross actually shows up at Tony's funeral. Steve Rogers goes back in time to return the Infinity Stones, and he shows back up on a bench as an old man, passing along a new Captain America shield to Sam Wilson, making Sam the new Captain America. All we really know is that that version of Steve Rogers had gone back in time to live out a normal life with Peggy Carter. But we don't really know what that marriage looked like. It could be a question answered in Avengers: Doomsday, or might get addressed in Brave New World. But we don't know. Now, this moment in Endgame for some viewers might have been the last time they really saw Sam Wilson in a Marvel anything. But his storyline did continue in the 6 episodes of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier Disney Plus series in spring 2021. This begins with Sam feeling unworthy of being Captain America, donating his shield to the Smithsonian. But the government ends up giving it to John Walker, Wyatt Russell. Sam learns about Isaiah Bradley, a black super soldier erased from history, tortured, and imprisoned by the government, which deepens Sam's doubts. Sam now works with Joaquin Torres, Danny Ramirez, and the United States Air Force on contract missions. But then he ends up joining up with Bucky Barnes and Zemo to stop the Flag Smashers, a group of militants with stolen super soldier serum. This trio ends up going to Madripoor, where we find out that Sharon Carter, Peggy Carter's great-niece, is now the power broker, arms dealer of Madripoor. They end up going to the Baltic, where they run into the Wakandan Dora Milaje. John Walker goes too far while apprehending the Flag Smashers and uses Cap's shield to publicly and bloodily execute a Flag Smasher. And that gets him dishonorably discharged but recruited by Val to be US agent. Future member of the Thunderbolts. Sam gets Cap's shield back and trains with it at his Louisiana home, bouncing it off of trees, moves that I'm sure will come back in Captain America: Brave New World. He gets a new suit from the Wakandans and, working with Bucky and John Walker, ends up stopping the Flag Smashers from an attack on world leaders in New York. Sam Wilson gives a speech to those world leaders from the GRC. We actually do see the raft again in this series, and there's a chance that it shows up in Brave New World. By the end of the series, Isaiah Bradley gets a new Black Captain America exhibit at the Smithsonian, and Sam and Bucky end up partying with some family down in Louisiana. Joaquin Torres ends the series inheriting Sam's Falcon wingsuit. Now, at this point in spring 2021, this series was, at the time, the highest viewed title on Disney+, which gave Marvel Studios confidence to greenlight a 4th Captain America movie centered around Sam Wilson, the early drafts of which were written by 2 of the writers of the series. But we also need to check in on the Eternals film from 2021, which showed how the Marvel cosmic gods known as the Celestials planted in the Earth's core in ancient times a celestial seed to feed on the planet's life force over the millennia to one day hatch that seed in a process called the emergence to form a new celestial named Tiamat and destroy planet Earth. The Eternals, all this time, were intended to be the synthetic caretakers of this process. But the Eternals, led by Cersei, get soft for humanity and stop this emergence, leaving Tiamat as a giant, marbleized corpse sticking out of the Indian Ocean. In nearly every Marvel title since, many Marvel fans have wondered why no one in these titles ever talks about Tiamat. But this corpse is now returning finally in Captain America: Brave New World. Actually, the one Marvel title to address Tiamat was She-Hulk, the 9-episode series that continued the Hulk subplot in the MCU. Since Bruce Banner had found a balance as Smart Hulk during the blip period in Avengers Endgame, he then created an inhibitor bracer on his wrist to allow him to revert back to normal human Bruce Banner form, as we saw in the Shang-Chi post-credits scene. But when Bruce and his cousin Jen Walters get in a car accident, the device gets damaged, and Bruce's blood gets into the bloodstream of his cousin Jen, turning her into She-Hulk. Bruce helps her hone her whole skill set while she continues working as an attorney. One of her clients is Emil Blonsky, Tim Roth, returning from that 2008 Incredible Hulk film after a cameo in the Shang-Chi film. In She-Hulk, Jen becomes a target of a misogynistic network called the Intelligentsia. The Intelligentsia in the comics is the name of a villainous league that includes Samuel Stearns, the leader. But in She-Hulk, it was really just like a group of sexist internet trolls led by Todd, who really just wanted to steal Jen's Hulk blood. In the final episode, Jen breaks the 4th wall of the series to walk into the Disney studio lot and go into the Marvel Vault to tell the Kevin robot that controls all storylines in the MCU to alter her storyline to remove Hulk Todd and really just bring back her sexy new hookup, Matt Murdock. This series ends with Hulk revealing he has a son from Sakaar named Scar. So, will Hulk or Scar or She-Hulk or any of these characters appear in Captain America: Brave New World? I doubt it. Mark Ruffalo did misspeak at an event that he might appear, but that was soon after retracted. There are other Hulk characters in Marvel Comics like the young Amadeus Cho that fans are expecting to see in the MCU at some point. But we just don't know for sure. Amadeus Cho is a super smart Korean-American kid who becomes the Hulk in 2015's The Totally Awesome Hulk series by Greg Pak. Over the years, some MCU fans have thought that Helen Cho from Age of Ultron could be revealed to be his mother. But that hasn't been confirmed yet. Now, Amadeus does have a supporting role, voiced by Alex Lee, in the animated Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man series. Which, despite having a number of MCU parallels and at one point conceived to be an animated take of the MCU, is actually confirmed to be a separate universe. But it seems like Marvel Studios wants Amadeus Cho to be on our radar. And finally, we have the events of Secret Invasion, which pulled back the curtain on a massive Skrull-shaped shifter conspiracy centered around Nick Fury. Characters like B.R., Everett Ross, and Maria Hill, RIP, still not over her death, were caught up in it. The key takeaway? US President James Ritson ended the series by declaring war on all extraterrestrials on Earth. But, fast forward to the present MCU, and we've got Thaddeus Ross, now played by Harrison Ford, sitting in the Oval Office. Following the passing of William Hurt in 2022. Remember, back in the days of Iron Man 3, President Matthew Ellis was in charge. And other titles like Luke Cage Season 2 even threw in nods to Donald Trump. With Daredevil, Born Again on the horizon, it looks like Marvel Studios is finally solidifying the Netflix shows as canon. But the timeline is bound to get messy. My guess? The MCU is sticking with fictional presidents for the long haul. In Daredevil, Born Again, Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, is the mayor-elect of New York City. And we're also seeing more government officials pop up in the MCU. Richard Schiff plays the U.S. Secretary of State, a role introduced in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and of course, there's Val, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, running the show at the CIA. She'll be leading the Thunderbolts team, which includes heavy hitters like Bucky Barnes, who's now a congressman, John Walker, Yelena Belova, Red Guardian, Ghost, and Taskmaster. This brings us to the setup for Captain America, Brave New World. Thaddeus Ross is running the US government and, yes, will finally become Red Hulk after years of obsession with Hulk blood and the super soldier serum. His health issues and troubled history with the Avengers have built up to this moment. Sam Wilson is now Captain America. Joaquin Torres takes on the mantle of Falcon. And we've got Isaiah Bradley, a past super soldier who has some seriously dark history with the US government. Samuel Stearns returns as the leader, pulling the strings behind the scenes. Oh, and let's not forget Liv Tyler's comeback as Betty Ross from the 2008 Incredible Hulk film. A big addition to the MCU lore is the celestial Tiamat, whose corpse, following Eternals, is now established as a source of adamantium, the metal tied to Wolverine. Comic fans know that Wolverine's Weapon X is part of the same super soldier lineage, aiming to create a new Captain America. Plus, serving President Ross is Ruth Bat Sarah, a former Black Widow, while Congressman Bucky Barnes has formed a close bond with Sam Wilson. Given how much government intrigue is woven into this movie, don't be surprised if Congressman Barnes shows up in more than just a cameo. And with all the Hulk-related content in this film, many fans are speculating we might see some more Hulk-adjacent characters show up. Lastly, we need to talk about the Serpent Society, a snake-themed group of villains that Captain America battled in the 80s comics. Back in 2014, Kevin Feige teased that the third Cap movie was going to be called Captain America: Serpent Society before pulling the rug out and revealing the real title, Captain America: Civil War. In Brave New World, the Serpent Society is led by Seth Volker, played by Carlo Rota, formerly slated for Seth Rollins. But that changed during reshoots. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay epic, Geekverse.